Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Elmfield Town Council, April 19th, 2011. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones unless you are armed or with a radio for public safety in the back of the room. And we have quite a few of our distinguished leaders this evening. We're looking forward to hearing from you tonight. There are agendas on the side wall if you are looking to have some of the material we will be covering this evening. So with that, I'd like to have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Dornbecker.
Here.
Councilmember Hall.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chilton.
Here.
Mayor Dunbar.
Here.
Let the record reflect that Councilmember Moeller is excused.
And we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on, do we have any closed session report?
No, we do not this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Then we will move on to item 5, adoption of the agenda. I understand we have some adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mayor. Under consent calendar item 7D, change the word association to associates, typo correction. And then under public hearing items, 9A, Kelly's Fuel and Provisions, and 9B, Tacos Garcia. We have received requests from the applicant representatives to continue the public hearing to May 3rd. And as we reach each of those items, I'd ask for a motion to open the public hearing and continue to date certain at that time.
Very well. Thank you. Are there any other questions or requests for changes to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to adopt as amended?
I'll make a motion to adopt as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to public comment. This would be public comment for anything that we will not be covering on tonight's agenda, anything that the public would like to bring up. Now would be your time. Okay, we will move right on to item 7, the consent calendar. We've had the one typo correction on 7D brought up. Is there a motion to approve, or are there questions for the consent calendar items?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consent calendar is approved. We'll move right on to item 8, presentations. And I do not see yet any representatives of our allied council from the Veterans Home. We will, if we're still in the presentation portion of this agenda and they arrive, we will go back to them. But in the meantime, we'll move right on to 8B, CAL FIRE Public Safety Quarterly Report.
Good evening to the mayor and the rest of the council. For the first quarter of 2011, your fire department responded to about 226 calls, consisting of 118 medical aids, 17 public assists, 19 vehicle accidents, 4 vehicle fires, 44 alarm soundings, 8 reported structure fires, 6 miscellaneous fires, 3 hazardous materials calls, and 7 tree and power lines based on the storms. Of those calls, 64 were in town, 58 for the Veterans Home, 95 in the unincorporated county, and 9 is mutual aid to mutual aid to the city of Napa. Still fairly consistent with a little rise again in the Veterans Home. For the quarter itself, there's really pretty quiet. No real significant events to speak of. We had a couple of PR events with a Taste of Yountville and a generous donation from the Kiwanis Club for our Explorer program. We did host a contingent of firefighters from France who were observing the CAL FIRE organization and happened to make a scheduled stop in Yountville. So they were actually very impressed and appreciative of the hospitality in town. And a couple new faces in the firehouse, but actually all in all pretty quiet. It's probably it's not last quarter, and we can cover, I guess, more next quarter, but last week, we also hosted the meet and greet for the council and management team at the fire station. I hope it was beneficial to those who could make it. I know we actually identified, it was actually pretty beneficial on both ends because we identified some areas where I think we can improve some services to the local community based on the feedback we got from the town and the management team. So it was actually a pretty good networking event, which I didn't intend it to be, but it actually worked out pretty well. So thanks for those of you who took the time, and the ones who couldn't make it, we'll reschedule. But again, quiet quarter, so if anybody has any questions.
Are there any questions of Town Chief Parks? Just one thing I wanted to ask you, with all the rains that we've had, it looks like there's quite a bit of growth. Are you trying to be proactive, reminding people about clearing their yards and that type of thing as we get into fire season?
We do, as far as the public address or public service announcements, things like that, media releases, yes, those should be coming out really quickly now as things start to turn. On the inspection side of things, just budget issues are going to prevent, the state funded, I forget what the number was, but there was a certain line item of specific inspectors that were to go out in the county areas and do weed abatement and weed clearance type issues, and those have been cut this year. So we'll be doing that from the station level. So you'll still have the service, we won't hit nearly the number of residents as we did last year. But it's right about that time. We usually wait for the rain to kind of stop, only because people's, and take this in context, your attention span's only as good as, there's only when it's relevant. So if it's raining, people aren't really buying the message. But as soon as the grass starts to turn and things like that, they're usually a lot more receptive to the message itself. So we just started talking last week, in fact. We're starting to ramp that program back up.
Great.
And I'll also clarify that the town staff has a list that we maintain for property as well as far as weed enforcement and abatement letters, and we're also tracking that, and those are about to go out as well.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on next. Sheriff's Department Public Safety Quarterly Report. No pressure, but I see a lot of brass back there.
I haven't noticed. Good evening, members of the council and the mayor. Now playing the part of Sergeant Belmer is yours truly, Cal Valenti. Sergeant Belmer, who normally makes his presentation, was not able to attend this evening, unfortunately for me. So I will apologize in advance for any problems. This quarter, under community activities, we had the Taste of Yountville, which was held in March. I didn't realize clouds could hold that much water. It rained quite a bit, which put a little damper on the attendance. Some people did manage to make it out, but other than that, there were no calls for service in relation to that event. Deputy Zimmerman is now a certified DARE instructor. He completed his instructions in Southern California and is now teaching DARE at Yountville Elementary. To add on to that community activities, we have a volunteer program that is slowly but surely making progress. We have somebody that lives at Rancho de Napa, who's we're going to be adding on shortly. We're finishing some background investigations. They're currently attending the Sheriff's Police Academy or Citizens Academy in down at the main station on Wednesdays. Crime trends for this quarter are our calls for service were down 72 calls from 474 last quarter to 402 this quarter. There were 10 theft reports, and theft crimes or theft reports remain to be the town's number one issue. However, there doesn't seem to be any particular trends. No patterns that we can discern. Also, arrests were similar to last quarter. There were 5. Traffic collisions and traffic enforcement stops also remain consistent from the last quarter. There was only one reported accident. I think the sergeant had included a graph which shows the calls for service were almost identical to the same quarter last year. There was one major event or major crime report. There was a rape reported last quarter. The only comment I have on that was that it was not a stranger-type assault. It involved two parties who knew each other. And my understanding was investigations had looked into that. Initially, the investigation was carried out by the patrol staff. It was eventually turned over to investigations, and I believe the matter had closed with insufficient evidence. I will be more than happy to entertain any simple questions.
We'll try to take it easy on you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? How's that for easy?
That's pretty easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the report. And we're quite satisfied if both fire and the sheriff's department give us boring, uninteresting reports. It's quite all right. Moving on, I know we have some exciting news coming up here with our next presentation. 8D, Yountville Housing Authority Annual Report, presented by Andrea Clark of the City of Napa Housing Authority. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and other council members. My name is Andrea Clark, and I do work for the Housing Authority of the City of Napa. I've been there almost 10 years now, and I have been operating your housing programs for that entire time since I've been there. And I was asked this evening to give you a brief report of the housing services that are provided by the Housing Authority of the City of Napa under your housing services agreement. So the town contracts annually with the Housing Authority to provide a variety of housing services. The services provided to the town of Yountville include technical assistance related to a variety of housing functions, including housing assistance with affordable housing development projects, monitoring, compliance monitoring of the for sale units and of the rental units, and rental assistance throughout the county and also in Yountville. One of the main functions of the Housing Authority is our rental assistance program, and we do operate that program in the town of Yountville and also throughout the entire county. Our biggest program that we administer is our Section 8 housing vouchers program, and annually HUD, Housing and Urban Development, provides a grant to us to fund our rental assistance program. And this past year, we were awarded $9.6 million. And that allots us about 1,200 vouchers a year. And in the town of Yountville, we have 15 households that are receiving rental assistance vouchers under this program. And 35 households are on our wait list. Over the past year, we've seen a major increase in the need for rental assistance, and our wait list has increased to over 5,000 people on the wait list. Fortunately, HUD has given us the word that they are keeping our funding the same, even though we do have an increased need. They are going to cut our administrative fees that we do receive by about 8%. So the next slide that I wanted to show you shows some demographic information with regards to our program. And it is broken down by the different cities in the county. And your 15 are shown right up there in the middle, but kind of that orangey color. And then the next slide shows the different recipients under our program and different income levels. And as you can see, the majority of our recipients under the rental assistance program are extremely low income. And this equates to a household of two. Their income cannot be more than $19,650, and a household of four, that income equates $24,550. Next, I wanted to show you the comparison of the program broken down by the different types of households. And the majority of our recipients under the rental assistance program is our female head of households. And that can be either that they are the ones that signed up for the program, but actually the majority of those recipients are single mothers. And lastly, this slide shows the average income under the different programs that we have. And as you can see, the majority of the programs have incomes somewhere around that $16,000 to $15,000. That's their annual household income. So the program is in extreme need, and unfortunately HUD doesn't necessarily see that for us, so we don't often receive too many new vouchers. In the town of Yountville, though, we have one person out of the 15 voucher holders that participates in our family self-sufficiency program. And this is a program that provides services and case management for the family members, and provides education and job training and budgeting, counseling, that type of information, so that these families that are on our rental assistance program can actually make their way and become independent and be able to get off of government subsidies. We have been awarded 100 new vouchers this year for the non-elderly disabled persons, and under our rental assistance programs, each household that does receive a voucher meets with our housing technicians, and they become income certified, recertified each year. They discuss their benefits and review the program guidelines. And then we also have an inspector that goes into each of the homes to make sure that the homes are neat and clean, and that the landlord hasn't deferred any repairs that need to be done that would cause any kind of health or safety problems. Another area of our assistance or under our contract is our county-wide activities that we do, which represents the town. And then we, under that is our homeless services, and in the Continuum of Care program. Each month I do attend a meeting that with the other nonprofit organizations and other housing assistance organizations in the county, and we discuss the types of programs that we all offer. We one more slide, Bob. There we go. Okay. And we then also discuss the different grants that are available through HUD that we can apply for to be able to assist with the homeless. And this last year we were able to obtain a grant from HUD for about $500,000, and we have one person here in Yountville that does receive assistance through those grant funds. They receive rental assistance, and they also receive case management through probably Health and Human Services. And then also the county of Napa and other nonprofits within our county came together and formed a consortium, and we were able to apply to the HUD for some of the stimulus funds that were available for rapid rehousing for those folks that are losing their housing due to job losses, or families that may be losing their house because they've been foreclosed upon. And the group has also then gone to the Wine Valley auction, and they were able to receive some additional funding to be able to keep this program going, because as we know, the stimulus programs were all just 1 to 3 year programs. So we're hoping that we'll be able to keep this program going. And then last November we sponsored what was called a Project Homeless Connect. And what we did is we brought many of the services that homeless people need, medical care, dental care. We actually had some hair barbers there. We had food distribution. We had the DMV there. We had Social Security there, the Veterans Administration there. Many of these services that the homeless households need, and we brought it all under one roof and sort of had a one-stop shopping. And that was a great success. We anticipate that we will have that again next year in November. And next then in the area of our standard services that we provide to the town, is our main function then is our monitoring and compliance monitoring of the regulatory agreements. So in the for sale area of the affordable housing, we each year send out letters to each of the homeowners and we verify their owner occupancy. And then we also obtain information with regards to their insurance to make sure that they always have homeowners insurance that is I'm sorry, that the homeowner insurance is current and that the town is mentioned and stated on the insurance policy as an additional insured or lien holder. And then we also check with the county recorder's office to make sure that the property taxes are current and paid. And then throughout the year, if any of the homeowners are interested in refinancing, then I will answer any questions regards to that. I get phone calls from the homeowners or I get phone calls from the lenders wanting explanation about the different regulatory requirements. And also then I'm monitoring foreclosure action. And then most recently we had the resale of one of the Washington Park homes. And this evening we did conduct the lottery for that home. And I was pleased to say that we had 2 applicants for that home, and both of the applicants lived and worked here in Yountville. And so when we applied the local preference policy, each of those households received 3 chances in the lottery. And the winners were Jeff and Lizelle Smith. And they were just really excited. And the actual homeowner had been their teacher, their child's teacher at one point, so they knew each other. So also then in the area of monitoring, we, with regards to the rental projects, again, we're looking at making sure that the property managers and the owners of the rental projects are complying and to the affordable housing agreements, and they're also then doing their income certification of each of the tenants each year to make sure that they are remaining income eligible. And then we also make sure that they're allotting the correct number of affordable units in each of those projects according to the terms of the agreement, and that they're also applying the local preference policy when they are looking at new tenants for the projects, for their rental vacancies. And then we do go out and inspect the different properties. And we also provide technical assistance from time to time to each of the property managers or owners if they have questions with regards to any of the compliance to either the affordable housing agreements or to the local preference policy. And during this past year, we did provide some rental information and applications in our office for the newly constructed Arroyo Grande Villas, even though Napa Valley Community Housing was the main property manager in that. We did have applications in our office because we have people throughout the day that are looking for rentals, and so we did have those applications there and were able to provide assistance with those. And then also this year, as the Hotel Yountville has been ramping up their workforce housing units, I have been providing some technical assistance to the property managers there and assisting them with putting together a rental application package and helping them understand then the terms of their workforce housing agreement. So currently the town has about 100 affordable housing units, which breaks down to 28 for sale units and 72 rental units. And lastly, I wanted to report to you about the technical assistance portion of our service agreement. in addition to the sales and marketing efforts involved in the sale of the affordable housing unit at Washington Park, I've worked with the deputy town attorney to update our regulatory agreement that is used on those properties. We've found that that over time, those older agreements really do not provide the town with as much enforcement or controls on those affordability covenants, and so we've reviewed those agreements and determined that they do need to be updated. And we've also been monitoring and working together on the foreclosure on Jasmine Street, and so I've assisted the deputy city attorney on that. And then our housing manager and myself, throughout the year, we've been available for any kind of technical assistance that we could provide your staff. And I look forward to another year of working together with your staff and the town. And I'd be glad to answer any kind of questions that you have. And thank you for letting me come this evening.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any specific questions or comments of Ms. Clark?
I'm sorry, just,
Councilmember Hall, go ahead.
please, May. You said there's 100 units, 28 in Yountville, 100 units, 28 for sale, roughly 72 rental, and obviously all occupied at this point in time. The exception
Yes,
of one.
except for Jasmine Street.
Except, well, one or
Yeah.
two. Okay. And then I want to go back just because you made a comment. We're all hearing about budget cuts and things like that. And you said that you administer roughly $9.6 million in Section 8 monies, I would assume, but that you are told your funding next year is not going to go down. Is that's the expectation? At least that's what they're telling you. You're not going to get reimbursed. You're getting a decrease in the admin, but your other funding in general is going to be the same.
Right.
But the need is increasing, I think, is what
The
you
need
said.
is increasing, however, the funding is not going to increase, and the number of vouchers that we receive will not increase.
I see.
So
how they
that,
control costs.
yeah, we were excited to hear that we weren't going to have any kind of decrease in the amount of funds to be able to provide the assistance. However, we weren't too excited about when they told us that our administrative fees will be decreased, but well, we'll get that, make that up in other areas.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And I think if I could, I want to also explain to the council and the public that the relationship that the town has with the city of Napa is one by choice, where this is an illustration, if you will, of our partnering and using a shared service approach. Rather than us try to have our own staff that would stay abreast, knowledgeable of all of the ever-changing housing laws, regulatory, we partner along with several other cities in the city of Napa. So while we have our own very distinct program, it's administered by very capable content people that stay up on that, as opposed to our staff having to do that. And they do work in a partnership. So I just want people to be aware of that. So when somebody says, well, why is the city of Napa here, or why aren't we doing that? If we did that, it could potentially have a higher internal cost, and we may not have people that are trained and as technically proficient on the unique nature of the housing regulatory environment and how to manage that. And as you know, we're a small player population-wise, but we actually have a legal obligation through our housing element and our HCD requirements that we've entered into. So while people go, we don't have a homeless problem in Yountville. Well, yes, we do. We do have people that are affected by homeless. We have had them, and we do need to partner and work in the regional solution. So I just kind of want to, so while you don't see us talk a lot about that, that's because Andrea and her team are taking and coordinating and dealing with the town's responsibilities and then sharing back.
Thank you for that. And the part that I wanted to touch on is, and you mentioned it, I just wanted to highlight it, is that you have your ongoing monitoring and inspections and income validation, things like that. We've worked very hard, and we're very proud that we do have that certified housing element, and we really have been proactive about building and supplying, making available these affordable units. And so it's really important to us and the public, especially those that need it, that they stay affordable and stay available, and we really have to keep diligent about monitoring that. So
And I do think that's a very significant point. We've now reached a point where approximately 9% of our housing stock is affordable restricted, which is a very, very enviable record, especially for a small community in a high-cost area of living such as ourselves.
Oh, yes, Councilmember Dornbecker.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you so much for the work you do. It's so important to help families. And I wanted to ask you about this HUD Continuum of Care grant. Is that something that a family would have to apply for?
It is a program that we partner with the Napa County Health and Human Services, and the grant is not only for chronically homeless, but also those persons that need help with drug and or alcohol rehab. And so it is a partnering program where they go and receive their rehab services through the county and their case management. And then once those folks are stabilized, then they refer them to the housing authority and we issue them a voucher. And it's that voucher and that case management is funded through the Continuum of Care grant.
I see. So only one household in Yountville is currently enrolled in that or needs that at this
Right.
time?
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you once again. It's very good work you do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So we are going to move on now to our agenda items 9A and B, our public hearings. And I will ask the town clerk and town attorney to make sure that I do this appropriately. First of all, item 9A, Kelly's Fuel and Provisions, 6795 Washington Street, approval of a master development plan amendment. And there has been a recommendation or a request this to be continued to our next meeting on May 3rd. So is there any kind of report that goes before we open a public hearing part of this?
No.
No. So I can go ahead and open the public hearing on this item?
We're going to continue it to date certain.
You can open the public hearing at this time, entertain a motion to continue this item to May 3rd without further notice.
Shall I at least ask if there's anyone in the public that would like to speak to this agendized item? We don't need to.
Because we're really not conducting the public hearing
Okay.
tonight.
So I'll consider the public hearing open for this item, and we'll welcome a motion to continue it to our May 3rd meeting.
I move that we take this under consideration as May 3rd meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, so we will continue that to May 3rd. Moving on to 9B, Tacos Garcia, 6764 Washington Street. Consider approving a use permit amendment to extend closing hours of operation. And the same way, we will open the public hearing for that item, and I will welcome,
Motion to continue to the May 3rd meeting?
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Both items will be continued to May 3rd. And we will now move on to item 10, administrative regular items, Napa County Sheriff Law Enforcement Services, approving amendment number 1 to agreement number 1841 for provision of law enforcement services to the town of Yountville.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we have an item before us which will be a recommendation for a 3-year renewal of our law enforcement contract service agreement with the County of Napa. The town of Yountville has historically contracted with Napa County Sheriff Department for the provision of law enforcement and related services. The current contractual approach dates back to January 1992 and has been renewed a number of times, most recently with a 5-year agreement on 2007. The town contracts with the County of Napa in lieu of operating our own police department. In 2007, the town and county agreed on a turnkey, fixed-cost approach to law enforcement services with a comprehensive scope of service level, dedicated staffing, in terms of payment for the identified scope of services. The focus was that we're going to get a turnkey approach, which includes detective, dispatch, administration, a whole range of services that sometimes people don't actually see when they think of our deputies that they're associated with. And our service is intertwined with the county's deliverance of police services. So it's an integrated approach, and we have dedicated staffing. One of the things that we discussed this year, and I will point out, the current contract had a provision for the renewal this year and next at a 12% cost. And we had some very positive and frank conversations with the Sheriff's Department, and they understood. And when we talked and said 12% continuation is not sustainable. And to their credit, they've really worked with us, and the sheriff is here, Doug Cofer, Under Sheriff John Robertson, and they're going to give a more substantial presentation on their services. But I have some, I think, fairly good news to share with you is we've reached terms of agreement that will provide for a continuation of the basic scope at a 3% increase over each of the next 3 years, and a restructuring of some of our staff resources to allow for an increase from 120 hours of dedicated deputy service to 160. And when we say dedicated deputy service, we're talking about folks assigned here in Yountville, and that doesn't mean that we don't have 24/7 coverage, because that's a urban myth. We do always have coverage, even though it may not be by one of those dedicated personnel, but that's a different deployment structure. So that's the provisions. I think it meets the goals and objectives that the council provided to us in terms of making and continuing to have public safety support. I've identified in the staff report the amount of the increase, and it comes up to approximately $23,000 to $25,000 a year over each of the next 3 years. So we will, in fiscal year 2013-14, be spending approximately $884,791. I also want to point out, though, that the sheriff worked with us very well, and our 2013-14 price is less than what it would have been had we taken the 12% option. So I do want to footnote that this is not, and I also want to footnote that I also don't think that it would be a very practical or realistic alternative for the town to opt to operate its own police department, both from a public safety delivery service element, from the size of the department, staffing, and the cost. I don't believe that we could be as cost effective in the overall service as the sheriff is in the deployment that we have. And again, I mentioned the theme earlier with the City of Napa Housing Authority. This is a shared service approach, and because we are blended into our own component, but blended and integrated with the Napa County in their regional, up valley beat, we get some benefit from that. And the staffing, the shared services with regard to dispatch and administration, detective, juvenile, we don't necessarily use a lot of that on a regular basis, but when we need it, we need it. And under this approach, we get it. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Under Sheriff John Robertson.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Council and Mayor. Tonight I have, Captain Tracy Stewart from Operations at the Sheriff's Office. And you all know Cal. Everybody knows Cal in town. And Lieutenant Doug Pike was here. He ran up to a meeting in Angwin. And we also invited the sheriff, who invited his wife, and apparently his wife stood him up. So anyway, which is definitely going to affect my meal later after this. I wanted to, if I could, just take a few moments of your time. Steve actually took pretty much everything I was going to say, but I just wanted to talk to you about perception and basically our value-based policing model, which is pretty unique. And we're going to talk about fixed costs involved in the contract. And these fixed cost contracts are not being done anywhere else in the state of California. They've worked really well for us, and it's great for small community policing, which Napa County considers itself a smaller or smaller than medium-sized department. We cover 800 square miles, or approximately 800 square miles. And also, we have to deal with perception. And the public perception of law enforcement or public safety in general right now is, that salaries and benefits and retirement costs and everything are out of whack. And oftentimes we look back on times that that we feel maybe times were better back in the past. Well, 20 years ago, I was working for another police department, and I came up here and did a ride-along with a deputy that brought me through Yountville. And it was at that point that I decided that I would apply to the Napa County Sheriff's Department because of their community policing model. It was something that I wasn't experiencing down in the Bay Area, and I thought it really was the future. And I still think it is the future. And the Napa County Sheriff's Department, or the County of Napa, gives us the ability, and this town gives us the ability to work in ideal situations for a community policing model. And it allows us to do these value-based programs. And I'm going to be throwing a lot of numbers at you. I created something that's obviously too small for you to see. But I did send electronic copies.
They have hard copies, too.
Okay, which are also probably pretty small.
Pretty hard to read, yeah.
Yeah, and but if you put them on a computer, they're electronic. If you put them on a computer, you can increase them to the 26% that they are now. So speaking of 20 years ago, after a couple of years, I was fortunate enough to be assigned as a regional deputy in this area, and our base was Yountville. We weren't yet Yountville deputies, but we were regionally based here. And that map, I don't know if it's still a map, probably not with all the remodels you've done, but there was a map and plans closet back there. And that's where Bob had us, in this closet. And there wasn't even enough room for a chair in there, but we had a desk. And anyway, we moved from there over to the Vets Home, and from the Vets Home we moved in and shared with CAL FIRE, Napa County Fire over there in the station. And then you've afforded us the luxury of having a station in town, which is fantastic. It's a beautiful station, and we're settled in there now after a fairly short period of time. But what I want to do is talk to you about the fixed cost contract and the benefits of doing a fixed cost contract. Fixed cost contracting gives you the ability, or the town the ability, to plan their budget in the future. In the past, we'd been billing on actuals, and there was always this mystique behind it. And quite honestly, there was a perception, and there was some occasionally disagreement on the number of hours or the miles driven in town, and there was always these questions being thrown about, and it didn't foster a healthy relationship at all between the county or the sheriff's department and the town management. And so by coming up with a fixed cost contract, again, it gives you the ability to forecast what your budget's going to be. It also holds us responsible, and this is the key for our management. It holds Tracy, and it holds Lieutenant Pike, and it holds Sergeant Belmer responsible for a budget and sticking to that budget. I know that's a perception that it's not done in government, but we do it. And any costs that we incur above that, we eat. So we're definitely on our management team to constantly be looking for ways to cut costs, but also offer a tremendous amount of service. And so we put a value on that service. And that's when we sit down with Steve, and we've had numerous conversations with him, and we've talked about concerns that the town has. We're able to modify our levels of service to meet or address those concerns, and it's really a healthy relationship. He knows what to expect from us. We know what to expect from him, and we provide him with a service. It's like a client or a client-based service that we're providing, and we want to please. These contracts are extremely important to sheriff's departments, and I think you're seeing that throughout the state of California now with some of the agencies that have the smaller police departments, how they're collapsing and they're moving to sheriff's offices. There's a perception from the public that maybe we should run this like a business, that it's smart. That would be a smart thing. I have a business and I run it, and the only difference with this is we're not in this for profit, and we have to forecast to break even. So what we've done is we've done some modification of your contract for this year. We've obviously dropped the percentages down. We've reduced our administrative costs to give you a value-based contract. So while there's valid business concepts that we can use all the time, and we study them, and we send our management to constantly to training and things like that. Those are some of the things that you're not seeing, but those are the things that we have to do in order to balance our budget each year. We have, the question of salary and benefits has come up. Our Deputy Sheriff's Association did just enter into a two-tier retirement. It was supposed to go into effect April 1st because of a PERS issue. It's going to be in effect, I believe, May 6th. So starting then, all the employees hired after that date will be at 3% at 55. Some of the services you're getting, and I'm going to go over these really quickly because I know you're aware of them, but the services you're getting, obviously, in patrol, and some of these services that I'm going to mention, the town may not get them on a daily basis, but they're available to the town. And some of the services that we offer, obviously, the town's not going to use, for instance, our marine patrol. Unless flooding gets really bad, then we can come up your creek. But we have canine, off-road. Obviously, the bicycle patrol is used in town, which is great. We also respond to critical incidents, natural disasters, SWAT. We have a bomb squad, search and rescue, our tactical team. Not that it's ever needed. Believe it or not, this town has utilized our tactical team on an occasion. With some demonstrations that were going on at a local establishment. We also train frequently and utilize and also participate in the training or tabletop exercises with staff, with SIMS and NIMS and the incident command system and things like that. If we ever do have a critical incident, earthquake, flood, fire, that sort of thing, so we can use it. We have used it in the past, and we'll continue to use it. We also offer our problem-oriented policing program, Neighborhood Watch, Business Watch, DARE, and GREAT. Our problem-oriented policing program is something that we started a couple of years ago. It's very successful. They've come into town. They did I know at one of your local crime prevention deals that you did at the new rec center and things, they did a solar panel theft we were experiencing out in the county. Probably not in the town of Yountville itself, but it brings people from the community that live in here and work out in the county the ability to come in and learn from experts how to secure their solar panels. We actually, the sheriff presented at the State Sheriff's Association, and we, through Congressman Thompson, have worked on legislation to increase the sentences of people caught stealing solar panels. And we have caught some people. We've been successful with it. So we also obviously work suppression. Steve had also mentioned 24/7. We're there for you 24/7. I know that we don't have dedicated deputies for 24/7, but we do have deputies working in the valley. We do have up valley deputies. We do have a mutual aid system that allows us, if there's an incident in Yountville at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, or whenever, we can have a lot of people here. If we have a major crime in Yountville, within an hour and a half, we can have 28 investigators here, crime scene people, SWAT teams, things like that. But that's just unheard of. That's unheard of in Richmond. That's unheard of in Oakland and things like that, because we have the ability, we have the contracts in place, that we have 72 hours. I talked about the Major Crimes Task Force responding. We have 72 hours and the town or the city of Napa, Calistoga, St. Helena when they can, and the California Highway Patrol Napa office contribute personnel, and they combine with our investigations division and our crime scene people, and we respond and investigate crimes. We've been very successful with that. Also, as your town manager stated, we are adding, if you approve this contract, we are adding a 4th deputy to the town, and that's because we've looked at it. We feel that we can afford to do it, and we think it would be a benefit to the town also. So we've moved up to that 160 hours a week of patrol, which will be great. And the Sergeant Belmer will be working with your town manager on a schedule that will meet both his needs and Sergeant Belmer's needs, and then we'll cover what we have to. And also special events. You always have our assistance with special events. We also have crime scene management, evidence collection, NSIB, the narcotics people. We're struggling a little bit right now. And I got to tell you, this presentation, this is going to be very candid and transparent. If you have any questions at all, just stop me, and I'd be more than happy to answer them. We're struggling right now. Our dedicated NSIB commander from the state is currently in Contra Costa working on an issue in Contra Costa County with BNE and Department of Justice. And we have an interim commander that's occasionally in from the state, but our sergeant has had to step up and really take over a role of supervision. It'll be similar to the role that Cal is going to be stepping up to when Sergeant Belmer has a minor medical procedure done. Cal will be stepping up. We'll also be, we had quite a bit of interest in deputies that want to work in Yountville. And so we have selected one of the deputies, and he's going to be working on an interim basis under the supervision of the acting sergeant, Cal, and also under the supervision of Lieutenant Pike. And he's going to test drive his position in Yountville, see if it's a fit for him, see if it's a fit for the town manager. And we think we've selected a pretty good employee, and we'll see if we can't make him part of the group, part of the team. We also offer high-tech crimes. We have the 290 enforcement, which is the predator, sexual assault. Each year, we go around and check every single person in Napa County and make sure they are where they say they are. And we go in and check computers and things like that. Also, elder abuse, sexual assault, property, persons crimes, obviously financial crimes. We've had a couple of financial crimes come out of the town in the last 18 months. Fortunately, we've been able to apprehend people and get money back, some money back, to the party that was wronged. And then also we have identity theft and crimes against children. I can tell you that currently, I know that you're reading the newspaper that identity theft, and apparently Napa County is the capital of identity theft. One of the reasons for that is the High-Tech Crimes Task Force is located down in the Airport Corporate Park. And so when they get cases from all over the Bay Area, Santa Clara north, they put those cases into Napa County to work on them. And so that's one of the reasons that we always appear as this identity theft capital of California. That's not really the case. But I can tell you that our deputies and our investigations division works identity theft cases on a daily basis, and it's right down to the person that had their mailbox or their mail taken out in a rural area, and they're missing their credit card, or they're missing $60 or a retirement check or something like that. We work very hard. We send our detectives down to the Bay Area, where apparently most of these end up, and they're down there working those cases and trying to get convictions. People don't generally, we hear story after story, whether they're dealing drugs, that people will go around Napa County. There was a case previously, historically, in Yountville of an assault of 2 tourists. This is not the town where you want to assault tourists. The judges have made that very clear. And if we prepare the case properly, people know not to kind of mess around. And we enjoy that. We enjoy that reputation, and it keeps the community safe. So when you have these stats, when they stand up in front of you, whether it's fire or whether it's law, and they give you these low stats, and some people would absolutely laugh. The unfortunate thing for us is we're not really on the top of the list when we ask for grants from the state and federal government on our crime, because we don't have the numbers to solidify it. That's a good thing. It works for us. I wanted to go over the costs with you, and I'm just going to throw the numbers, and actually your town manager had already given them to you, but 11 and 12 we're looking at $834,000. The next year we're looking at 3% increase to $859,000, and then your fiscal year 13-14, you're looking at $884,791, which is an additional 3%, about $25,770 increase. Again, we're forecasting that there aren't going to be COLAs, big pay raises coming anytime in the near future. As a matter of fact, there will probably be cost reductions. And we've got to find a better, more economical way of providing you people with service, and I think we can do it. To give you an idea of the base rate services, your patrol staff and your sergeant, 3 deputies, cost you $624,000, and investigations, property, and evidence collection cost you annually about $12,500, and you also have the mileage and use of 2 vehicles, and that costs you $18,000 a year. I don't need to tell you what the price of fuel is right now, but the Napa County Sheriff's Department drove over 1 million miles. Not obviously in your town, but countywide. And those costs are considerable. So to give you an idea, and I'll go into what the patrol car costs in a little bit, but your patrol car, let's say you pay $27,000 for the patrol car. Once you put the electronics, the camera, the MDC, and all the the stuff in it, the video cameras and things like that, you're looking at about $59,000 for a patrol car with the graphics and the emergency lights and all that sort of thing. We also do take and pride in keeping your cars clean, because we take them out of service at very low mileage and we put them into service in the county where they're run 24 hours a day and the mileage goes up rapidly because we just can't get the mileage on the car in town, and we don't want you driving Model A's or anything. So anyway, overtime and court appearance is about $20,000 annually. And just so you know, the Sheriff's Office, we have just about a $25 million annual budget. And we're constantly hit with the rollover term, or we're going to go with a flat budget. Obviously, the costs go up for us. I won't tell you all the different costs, but they definitely go up. Anyway, we're looking at the state of California right now. We don't know what the state of California is doing. As your town manager can't tell, as any of the people standing before you right now, who knows what the state of California is doing, and that affects us. But we think we're okay because truly the County of Napa, the Board of Supervisors, the CEO and the Assistant CEO, we may not like them at the meetings because they're so hard on us as far as our budget goes, but they have made us very lean and allowed us. We don't have any layoffs. I mean, that's huge right now in our world. You go around at a conference and you listen to all the 200, 300 employees, the 2, the 5, the 6, and the smaller counties and things like that. And we don't have those layoffs, and that's huge. And it's because of contracts. It's because of your contract. It's because of American Canyon's. Just so you know, American Canyon's contract is at $4.8 million, and at the end of 3 years, it'll be about $5.2 million. So also the additional the cost of liability. The nice thing for the town is there liability in the things that we do, a small amount of liability. But what you have is you have the Napa Sheriff's Office controlling your liabilities. You also have county counsel that stands behind us. We have a county risk manager that's standing behind county counsel. We have third-party legal services if they can't handle it. And then we would obviously work in cooperation with the town. We've been pretty fortunate that we haven't had any major issues. And I think that's because of the training that we give our people and the confidence that we can give our employees and the respect that we give our employees so that they can come and they can do their job without fear of always being second-guessed or whatever. We provide them with the very best equipment, and we provide them with a lot of safety equipment. And the training is very good compared to a lot of different agencies. And I'm talking about a lot of local agencies who can't afford to send their people to training. And I'm talking about up north and south of you. They just can't afford to send their people to training right now. And that's going to backfire on people. And then, your claims obviously go up from there. So in dealing, I just want to tell you that the total cost to hire, train, and equip one deputy is $188,500 through their probationary year. And what it comes down to is the probationary period salary is $88,500. The police academy, which is 22 weeks, is $49,500. Field training, which is 16 weeks, is $39,500. Recruitment, background, and hiring is $14,000. We take it pretty seriously. There are people, obviously, that don't make it in our program, and once you've invested money in them, it's tragic that we lose them, but some people just don't belong in the job, and usually those people realize it themselves. It's pretty rare for us to tell somebody, hey, see you later, you're not working out. We also, we deal with retirement costs all the time and workers' compensation. Our workers' compensation went from $200,000 annually to well over $500,000. We've had some major cases, unfortunately, career-ending cases and a long-term disease that is job-related. We can't control those costs. We've had some people injured in training. We can control that to a certain extent, but unfortunately it happens. We have to give them that level of training so that they have the confidence to do the job out on the street. Obviously, when you're contracting, you can look at, you always hear, well, we're going to look at what Napa PD offers or the California Highway Patrol, or, we always invite you to look at those things. I think you'll be pleasantly pleased with the price that you're getting out of our contract and the value to it. But, hey, look away. You're certainly free to do it. I will tell you that the current trend, and if you look at San Carlos or Half Moon Bay or 3 weeks ago, obviously we have St. Helena and Calistoga. I don't know what's going on in St. Helena right now. I don't know that they know what's going on in St. Helena right now. Calistoga is a great little community, and they seem very settled in the fact that they have a small department, and they're doing it. And we have a great relationship with both St. Helena and Calistoga and the city of Napa, or Napa area CHP, and we all help one another out. So if St. Helena is struggling, we're going to go into St. Helena and help them out. A lot of times people talk about providing their own police department, and they think, if we can just afford it, it'll be a good deal. This value-based policing model gives you the ability to basically control what you want, what you need. If somebody comes up here and they're working for us, and they're going to be working for you, and they're not working out, then all your town manager has to do is pick up the phone. And that employee, if that's what the town manager or the council desires, that employee is moved, and we will put somebody else in there. You don't get that with your own department. You don't get the chief that who has this severance package and everything else. If our sergeant isn't doing it for you, if they're underperforming, we're obviously going to try to correct that the best that we can. But sometimes it's just not going to happen. We're going to go ahead and pull that out. You have complete control over your contract, which is of huge value. So what you have is you have all these services. You have a tiny bit of liability, not much, because we control that. And you're basically getting this level of service that you control, that you dictate what levels you want. So, you've provided us with a beautiful place to work, a beautiful place to train our employees in community policing, which is everybody's going to alternative service methods now and internet reporting and things like that. We're still preaching to our deputies, you do not pick up the cell phone unless the person requests it. But we do face-to-face policing. That's what we're still doing. We're still able to get out of the cars. We're still able to shake doors. We're still able to walk through a business district. We're still able to meet with somebody that had their car broken into. We're not going to send a community service officer. We're not going to tell them to report it on the internet. There's an aging population that doesn't have the internet. We don't want to leave those people out. And we still investigate identity theft, and it's a difficult prosecution. But we're still going to let people know that you don't come into Napa County, you don't come into the town of Yountville and commit crimes. And I think you'll look around and you'll look at your quarterly reports and you go, we live in a pretty nice place. And I think a lot of times we watch the news and we forget that. You guys probably don't, but I think a lot of people do. They look at everything bad, and they look at value. And what we're trying to do is give you value at a good price, and that's what it's coming down to. If you have any questions of me, I know that was a little lengthy, but you can see all the transparency there. If you have any questions regarding costs or ways that we can do the job better, please let us know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any specific questions right now following the presentation? Yes.
I just have one, because it was an interesting point. You said you have a $25 million budget for your group. How many total deputies or how many total employees would you have under that?
We have 103 sworn. We'll have 104 sworn on July 1st. I don't know that we're going to fill that position because we're going to try to save some money. And then we have 36, I believe, professional staff that work in our records civil division and coroner's office and things like that.
So 140 with more or
Roughly.
less. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilmember Hall?
No, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the excellent presentation. My question right now has to do with the additional deputy. And you made the comment earlier that we don't have somebody here all the time, but if we have an additional deputy at 160 hours, that leaves 8 hours per week, which is, we won't tell people which 8 hours that is.
There you go.
What is your, can you explain to us what that means tangibly on a week-to-week basis? I mean, we have a, sorry, Kathleen, I'm going to pick you up. We have a finance director of the town. She's full-time, but she goes to conferences sometimes, et cetera. It's not the same thing with the police to say, well, I'm sorry, get the voicemail, we're at a conference right now. That doesn't, it obviously doesn't work that way. What's a reasonable expectation for us, the town, and our residents of, with this new contract, of when we will see people and how we will know who's here?
Yeah, I don't know if your town manager and Sergeant Belmer want to publish the hours, on your website. But I will give you an example. Sergeant Belmer is going for a minor surgery. We're bringing somebody from the valley up. He's going to be gone in May. We're bringing somebody up to fill in. We're moving Cal up to act as a sergeant, and Doug Pike is going to be supervising that to make sure everything goes smoothly, like he does with Sergeant Belmer. But we're moving bodies up. That's something, too, that you wouldn't get with your own police department. Basically, somebody calls in sick. You're working, unfortunately, we do it all the time. You have 5 people that are working graveyards or nights, as we call it, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. out in the valley. If 2 people call in sick, you have 3 people covering 800 square miles. But the town doesn't have that. Fixed cost contracting, and that's the benefit. And that's why American Canyon goes, heck yes, we'll take it. And that's why I'm hoping that you will too, because we're going to fill in those spots. Also, there's some things that you don't see in the fact that your July 4th celebration. We have all kinds of deputies up here that some are compensated and some aren't. They're being paid by us. Our incident command vehicle, we're not charging you for the incident command vehicle. We're not doing actuals like that. Also, our volunteers, our mounted posse, our Aero Squadron, come up for your events and work those events. They're not compensated. They're true volunteers. So we do fill in, which is unique. It's unique in the business world. And sure. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? I did notice that, Sheriff Crawford stood up, and by all means, you're welcome to make a comment.
Okay, thank you. First off, Steve and John did an excellent job as far as operationally, as far as the budget, but I did note that when John was talking about Cal, I'm not sure if Cal knew he was going to be acting chief because he started sweating immediately back there. So anyway.
He must have given a great report earlier.
Yeah, it was great. So he kind of broke the news to him harshly. But, I would just like to say that the Napa County Sheriff's Office loves being the public safety or the police service provider in the town of Yountville. We are very proud to serve the community. In fact, the men and women that come up here and serve, they're actually hard to get out of here. When we start talking about career development, they tend to kind of want to stay here. So sometimes we have to actually kind of say, no, it's time for you to, some move up in the rank or some move into other things. So we love the contract. As John stated, he went over some of the operational part, but this year is, I started, in 1971, I started as the Napa County Sheriff's Office Reserve, so that's 40 years ago that I've been involved in public safety in Napa County. And John mentioned about outfitting the cars with the technology and equipment. And over the last 40 years, we've all seen how technology and the exchange of information and improvements and that type has changed. But the one thing that has not changed in all my years of providing public service, if you're a victim of a crime and you pick up the phone and you're asking for help, you want a deputy or a police officer at your front door as soon as possible. And that's our goal at the Sheriff's Office. We don't want to ever lose that basic ability to be there and be there quickly and with trained and skilled and interpersonal officers and deputies. So that's kind of our pledge to the town of Yountville, that we will always be there. We work and we train for that. So I'm kind of simplifying it, but that's a basic need that has never changed in the last 40 years, and it was there before I got there, and it'll be hopefully here a long time after I'm gone and that type of thing. But it's a wonderful community. We're very proud. In fact, as we all are in this room, all of us have busy jobs, and we put my wife and I. She's a webmaster for a major hospital in the East Bay, and when we think of getting away and reducing the stress a little bit, we tend to come up here. We have a walking program. We tend to come up here to Yountville and utilize your town. We also have a restaurant program that we probably should cut back a little bit on, to be quite honest with you. But it's a wonderful community, and that's my message to you folks. You do a wonderful job, and it's a privilege to serve all of you, so thank you.
Thank you. And while I do have you here, since it's a special occasion, I just wanted to ask a question about the communication network that you have, because as has been highlighted tonight, not everyone throughout the valley is part of the Sheriff's Department contract setup. How do you communicate between American Canyon, Calistoga, the city of Napa, Yountville?
I mean, as far as staff and as far as law enforcement needs?
In terms of law enforcement, just in terms of if something happens in Napa, we had an incident where something happened in the unincorporated area and ended here in town.
Right.
But maybe you could just speak to the kind of seamless, hopefully, seamless communication and cooperation through the various agencies and why it works. And
right.
It kind of goes back to, it's not always just a cost issue about should we have our own law enforcement here in town like a Calistoga might do, or should we continue contracting with the county?
Right. I think I'm following you as far as the fact that the Sheriff's Office serving those communities and communicating. I mean,
yeah, and all the support that a larger network might provide, like the.
Absolutely. I mean, John hit some of it as far as the ability to communicate. As far as we're one agency. We obviously we have staff meetings. We meet with all the other chiefs in the valley, and obviously any communication or any event that happens, we've been intimately involved in Nixle, and I don't know if everybody's here. Signed up for Nixle or whatever. That's a wonderful ability to communicate. But as far as staffing, maybe John can also address. Did you want to?
Well,
you stepped up here.
Obviously, we have a contract. We contract.
If you could,
also.
just so for the record,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
We contract with the City of Napa Dispatch Center. We constantly work with them to increase our presence there. But they also dispatch for the Sheriff's Department, the City of Napa, American Canyon. So they're able, from a dispatch center located in the City of Napa. Now, we currently pay $1.9 million. Next year, we'll pay over $2 million for that dispatch, and a portion of that money will come from your contract, a small portion, but a portion nonetheless. But it gives us the ability to go into radio channels and move through the valley,
right.
Like if we have a pursuit. We also have mutual aid. If Vallejo comes into our town, or CHP from Sacramento is involved in a pursuit that comes through Napa, we have policies and procedures that tell our personnel where they can be or where they should be, not to get involved if they don't need to be, if they have a sufficient number of vehicles.
That is a plus side as far as what we call central dispatch, that everybody basically, Calistoga obviously has their own and that type of thing, St. Helena has their own, but everybody can pretty much hear what everybody else is doing, so that's in emergencies,
We can talk to CHP, we can talk to Fish and Game, and I got to tell you, when you're a deputy and your nearest cover's an hour and a half away, you make a traffic stop, and if things go bad, you enjoy having Fish and Game drive up. That's just the way we work in this county, and it's really a nice relationship. We do have monthly meetings. Everybody gets together and we roundtable, talk about issues. Fortunately, too, for us, the way this county is situated geographically, there's only a couple ways out and in. And so we can utilize our employees to position them into places where our apprehension rate is very high. And the crooks know that. So.
Well, thank you again for your presentation. I don't think we have any more questions of the council, but I do want to offer anybody in the public, if they have any questions or comments about the service contract that we're discussing here tonight. Don't see anyone moving forward, so thank you very much for that presentation. And we will move on for council discussion and potential action. Councilor Hall, do you have any specific comments?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank the group that came in tonight, and obviously the work done with Steve. To look back at the contract and see that we had 12% increases sort of planned for the next 3 years, brought back to 3%, but not only that, be able to add 40 hours per week on top of it. I've been through a lot of budget negotiations and contract negotiations, and I have a hard time seeing any downside to this one. In fact, I see no downside. But no, I think it's impressive that we've been able to do that and working in concert with you guys, and so I'm very supportive of it. I'm surprised to some extent that the 12% was initially put out with the contract, and I don't know if there was historical basis for 12% for the future years and why we would have necessarily agreed to that. But hindsight's 20/20 as well, and 3% seems to be the number that all of inflation is targeting toward these days. So, in general, I'm very pleased. I think it's nicely written, and it looks like a win-win for all.
Thank you for those comments. Councilmember Dornbecker?
Well, I too would like to thank the Napa County Sheriff's Department, and we have had a hard time also in this town letting go of some of the wonderful people who have served here. And I'm not used to saying that, but we are really fond of our defenders. So thank you very much. I think it's a very good contract. I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I'm still kind of laughing about the fact when you mentioned a car chase on CHP all the way from Sacramento, you got this big smile on your face. I think that was pretty funny. I of course support this. I just want to, a couple things. One, obviously the cost perspective, but an additional deputy, that to have both of those is at the same time. I mean, I don't know how we can possibly say no to the deal personally, but I think that's really exciting for Yountville. And I do agree. I think that we are, in many ways, the kind of the perfect little town when it comes to community policing. I recall probably a year or so ago when Chris was one of our deputies here, and he was driving through the neighborhood. He was parked at my neighbor's house, so I walked across the street and said, "Chris, what's going on?" He's like, "Well, their gate was open, and he never leaves his gate open." And they were actually out of town, and I think the pool guy had just left the gate open. But he knew enough driving around this town of who lived in what house and what was going on. And most of us who are here all the time, I mean, we know all these guys by name, and Cal's probably the one with the least incriminating nickname. So you're kind of lucky on that one. But I look forward to a new nickname on the new guy. We'll break him in on his May trial. So. Anyway, thank you very much, and I certainly do support this. I don't think there's any reasonable alternative.
Thank you. And you have my support as well. I want to acknowledge our town manager, Steve Rogers, for a great job of identifying critical elements and preserving and even increasing, as has been stated here, the level of service we'll be receiving. The community service aspect is critical to our community here. I grew up in Oakland, and it was a whole different situation there. And we really do appreciate knowing the officers, knowing the faces, the names, and the interaction. But given the climate, this is really kind of unheard of in a very positive way. That not only are you appreciating the budget restraints that we're under, we certainly understand the ones that you're dealing with, but at the same time, not sacrificing the level of service and the quality that we can give our residents. So that's greatly appreciated, and I suspect that this will be a model for other communities in the county and around the greater Bay Area. I think it should be. So I'm very thrilled that we get a little bit more coverage. I know you spoke to perception, people thinking that maybe nights or weekends or whatever, midweek, we didn't have anybody here, and boy, we cross our fingers, nothing bad happens. Certainly having those patrol cars parked in the middle of town, nobody knows if there's somebody in that office or not. And I really think that having that subtle at some times and more bold presence at other times is absolutely appropriate for the dynamics that we have here. We talk about a small community, but we have sometimes double or triple the population here in our town, yet we maintain that level of safety and quality of living. So that's in no small part to both our fire department, who's still here, outmanned significantly tonight, but equally our public safety. We really appreciate all that you do, and thank you for helping reach a kind of a cooperative agreement here. So with that, is there a motion on this contract?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2959-11, approving Amendment Number 1 to Napa County Agreement 1841 for provision of law enforcement services between the County of Napa and the Town of Yountville.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. That passes unanimously. Thank you again, and thank you, Steve, for working on that contract. We will move on to item 11. Staff informational reports, ad hoc restaurant project phasing plan. Vice Mayor, you had a comment?
Yeah, before we begin, I want to disclose that I am a co-owner of the Yountville Deli, which leases space on Washington Street in Yountville. After consultation with the town attorney and receiving written advice from the FPPC last week, no, a little longer than that, on April 7th, 2011, we have determined that this action tonight does not have a direct impact on my leasehold interest or a reasonably foreseeable material impact on my business entity. And as a result, I will participate in this item. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. And with that,
You'll hear that again.
with that, can we move to staff?
Well, actually, you guys have been very effective tonight with your meeting and your agenda, and I need to remind you that informational items are not action items. They're provided simply for your information.
Thank you. I understand that.
He's extra careful.
I'm just letting you know that therefore, tonight's item, there's no presentation on an informational item unless the council has questions. Myself, Associate Planner Smith, and Bob are here if you have any questions. What we're really trying to let you do, the whole topic of this is to let you know that there will be a phasing to the construction at the ad hoc, and the town staff has worked to ensure that protective measures to ensure that the end product reaches the guarantee that was presented on the project, and we have secured the fact that they will be entering into a formal agreement, and if the phasing does not result in the complete project that was approved, they drop back to the prior seat capacity.
And I was about to ask you for a brief summary, and thank you for that brief summary. Are there any other questions, or can we move on from this item?
That's what I have to say. There's no.
I know, but
note
I'm asking if the council would like any clarification on this item.
Just one correction in Phase 3 of the, as listed here, it would be completed by the spring of 2013.
Okay. Thank you very much for that.
One,
Yes.
no, I'm not, it's not on this item. It's another informational item just to share with you.
All right. We can move on to that informational item.
I'd like to just draw your attention briefly to the staff report. You'll probably notice that we are using the new strategic plan element template, and in the staff report, and the public at home can see that, we're starting now to reference the various activities as how it relates to the strategic plan. For example, you saw on the law enforcement how it references strategic plan element 1.12, protecting community health and safety, and also 5.1, budget to support town's mission. So you'll start seeing, staff will be incorporating that I'm not going to go into great detail on all of that. You'll also see that the town, we have put up, with the approval of the strategic plan, the vision statement and all of the town and department mission statements are framed in visible locations so that people can understand the values with which the town council and the management team and employees of this organization are delivering the services that we do. So I just wanted to share that with you. Those are immediate impacts of the approval last meeting of the strategic plan.
And just to clarify that, if folks are looking at the staff reports, that would be following the language of the report and would follow after fiscal impact and before alternatives. That would be the additional strategic plan goal references.
That's correct.
Very good. Thanks for that additional information. So we'll move on to item 12, council member meeting reports, and then we will follow that up with general comments. Let's see, flood control, that would be me. And we did meet today, and it's in here somewhere. And we did get, as we do every meeting, get an update on the flood project down in Napa. Also, Napa Mayor Jill Teckel and Supervisor Bill Dodd did go back to Washington. They gave a presentation on the flood project, which is being considered basically a model that is being considered for other projects around the country. We just hope that we can continue to get the County Corps of Engineers financial support through the budget for that project. They did meet with several federal legislators when they were back in Washington, but they also learned that, as is no surprise, because of the situation with the budget, there is something that they're calling sweeps, which is basically money is being taken back that had been allocated to certain projects around the country and reinvested in other areas of the budget. And so we're now hoping that that does not happen to the Napa flood project, or that it does not delay further the construction of that project. There are going to be some street closures down in Napa throughout the summer. Right now, 3rd Street is the most impacted with either part-time closures or lane changes, and that is going to continue as they work on the bridges down on 3rd Street and on Main Street. So I'll just continue to offer up those dates. I don't want to go too far out in the future because they do tend to slide a little bit. But that was today's flood control meeting. Napa County League of Governments, we had several of our members present. Would either Vice Mayor or Council Member have any comments about the Nicklog dinner down in Napa? No? Specifically, we did hear from our own Yountville resident, Napa Fire Chief Tim Borman, who gave a presentation about fire services. So I appreciate his input. And we had, I believe it was all the chiefs of the fire departments throughout the valley that were there. That was a good informational presentation about partnerships throughout not only Napa County, but how people are trying to maximize their fire protection services. Let's see, I was also at today the City Selection Committee meeting, at which Joan Bennett from American Canyon was appointed to be the next South Valley seat of the Local Agency Formation Commission, which is commonly referred to as LAFCO. Vice Mayor Chilton is our Upper Valley representative right now until 2013, I believe. And Juliana Inman from the City of Napa Council is the alternate on that LAFCO seat. Are there other, let's see, we have any other specific meetings for reports? Vice Mayor? With that, do we have any particular comments? Councilmember Hall?
Yes, I just again would like to remind the public that May the 19th at 9 a.m. will be the Watershed Information Conservation Committee's symposium that'll be going on at the Yountville Community Center. So come one, come all. It's a Thursday. So if you can get time free to come over, it's from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you. Councilmember Dornbecker.
Yes, I wanted to say how glad I am to see that the Silver Twist program has begun. I wanted to commend Kim Cook for taking the position as the chair of that program, and I'm looking forward to that being a very successful program so that we can, and I once again want to also give the Arts Committee our thanks. And hopefully that will be successful, and we will have the Silver Twist in front of the community hall. Odd forever.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, any comments? I have a few announcements. I do want to thank all the volunteers and residents of Yountville and the area, and also those folks that came from outside the area that participated in the Napa Rotary Cycle for Sight and the Rotary Ride for Veterans. We had, I believe the report was a couple thousand folks that participated. It was a beautiful day and a great ride. I know that there are some concerns about cyclists maintaining the proper right-of-way and rules of the road, which is an ongoing issue that we'll try to monitor as best we can, but I would like to just commend all those that came out to support the Enchanted Hills Camp for the Blind and also our Pathway Home program that's located up at the California Veterans Home. Also, I wanted to acknowledge, since they were not able to attend tonight from the Allied Council, I did attend the unveiling of the new tree signs that are part of the Alameda up at the Veterans Home. And the chairman of the Building and Grounds Committee, and he was also the chairman of this effort, Bob Heiss, one of the members up at the Veterans Home, just did a tremendous job for the last year and a half or 18 months, year and a half, 18 months, documenting with some volunteer support, documenting hundreds of trees and the species, and they're identifying them and creating a visual walking path where they're identifying the various types of trees up there. So I wanted to commend Bob and all of the folks that helped him out to create that. It's really a beautiful Alameda, and this way we can really identify. There are trees from virtually all over the world. Folks that may not know that the drive up California Drive, those trees along that roadway were donated following the World's Fair, I believe it was. And Colonel Halderman had the vision to solicit trees, seedlings from all over the world, decades ago, and now we're enjoying the fruits of that labor. So thank you to Bob. Also, a couple other announcements just very quickly. The Napa Superior Court is forming the new 2011-2012 grand jury, and they are looking for people to participate. And anyone interested in contributing may contributing to their community. Contact Court Executive Officer Richard Feldstein, and his number is 707-299-1110. That's for the Superior Court Napa County Grand Jury. Another announcement, two announcements from Congressman Mike Thompson's office. He is going to be hosting a U.S. debt crisis community meeting at 7 p.m. this coming Monday, April 25th, at the Napa City Hall Council Chambers. And the public is invited to hear the congressman speak about the federal government's debt situation and discuss proposals from the President's National Commission on Fiscal Responsibility. This is the fifth community forum the congressman has hosted around his district, and he will take all that feedback and then go back to the Ways and Means Committee and the House leadership to provide feedback from our community. So you have an opportunity to give your comments there. And also, he is going to be hosting the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Ray LaHood, in mid-May, a date still to be finalized, but they are going to be doing that here in Yountville. And we are going to be showcased the first and only, I believe, official part of the Vine Trail, our Yountville Mile, will be one of the topics, and it'll be just a visual presentation for the secretary. That will be showing him where some of that federal stimulus money went, since that project was substantially paid for by federal funds. The last announcement I wanted to make was that folks that have unwanted prescription drugs can turn them in to the Napa County Sheriff's Office. On April 30th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Sheriff's Office and the Drug Enforcement Administration will give the public an opportunity to prevent pill abuse and theft by dropping off at one of 4 locations: the Napa Sheriff's Office on Airport Boulevard in Napa, the American Canyon Police Department on Donaldson Way in American Canyon, our Yountville Regional Office on Mulberry, and the Angwin Regional Office on Howell Mountain Road. So they strongly urge people not to dispose of medications down the sink, the toilet, or in the trash, but to take care of that, and they're giving us an opportunity to do that. So, all those announcements and meeting reports. Any other comments? We will move on to future agenda items. We can look forward to a special meeting of the Yountville Housing Authority, and also to discuss the professional services agreement of the Yountville Chamber of Commerce. Moving on to item 14, closed session. I believe we do have an item for discussion tonight.
Yes.
And is there any expected reportable action this evening?
There may be on the second item, item B. We're asking for the council's consent to join in this one piece of litigation that the town is already involved in, so the answer to that is yes.
Okay, so any time approximation?
I actually think maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Okay. Just for folks that might be turning back in to find out what action there might be. So with that, we will adjourn to closed session.
Yes, this time, Mr. Mayor, members of the town council, we'd ask that you recess into